would want to only make 3 points, Honorable Speaker. One, India has been a victim of Pakistani terrorism from 7 decades. Like you are aware, since the inception, the birth of Pakistan, Pakistan's proxy war against India began. And this has gone on unabated. Without bearing the actual cost of a full-fledged war, Pakistan has tried to needle and bleed India with 1,000 cuts the last 7 decades. While we have focused our energies towards uplifting the millions of our people towards a better standard of living and contribute our best to the global welfare, Pakistan tries to claim itself to be a victim of terror. But in reality, to borrow the words of the leader of the delegation, it is an architect, sponsor, and benefactor of terrorism. And perhaps the only nation in the world, Speaker, sir, who has weaponized terrorism as statecraft. I want you, and through you, the people of Guyana and the Parliament of Guyana to take cognizance of this very unfortunate fact. The second point, Speaker, sir, is with respect to how this terrorism that emanates from Pakistan is not just a concern for India or for the immediate geography that we come from, but is also a global threat. Most terrorist attacks in recent times, whether it was the London bombings, the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka, the Paris attacks, or the 9/11, all investigations have in some way or the other established a direct or an indirect link with Pakistan. More than 52 UN designated terrorist organizations and terrorists find safe harbor and safe haven in Pakistan. And Speaker, sir, needless to say, in this interconnected, globalized world, one nation's problem, especially in matters like terrorism, is a collective problem for all. When there was attack on 26/11 in Mumbai, from where our honorable colleague Milind Diora comes from, there were many people across nationalities who were affected. There were Americans, there were people from Africa, there were people from so many other continents who were affected. In the same way, this time when India took action to eliminate the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, we also achieved the important task of neutralizing the attackers who killed Daniel Pearl. So one nation's inaction towards terrorism is a profound threat to all nations in this interconnected world. Therefore, Speaker, sir, this is a very serious issue, not just for us, it is for all of us. The final point I want to make before you is that India is a nation of 1.4 billion aspirations. We are the world's 4th largest economy today. And very soon we will be the 3rd largest economy. Our priorities are very different. We are in no mood for a war with Pakistan or with anybody else. And like our Prime Minister has multiple times mentioned, this is not an era of war. This is an era for growth, development and prosperity. Therefore, Speaker, sir, we need your support as a very important voice in the UN Security Council, and also as a country that has long-standing and deep relationship and history with India, to not just sympathize with us, but also provide support and also be a partner in our collective action to make this world more prosperous, peaceful, where in no way there will be space for merciless, brutal civilian killing in the name of terrorism. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My leader, Shashi Tharoor, my friend, old friend, Kalitari, and the young gentleman, they have explained everything. We are happy that you have explained the facts and figure of our relation with Pakistan and what is going on there. I have only 2 questions with Number one, you have a coalition government here, I think. No?
No.
That's good. And of course, as my friend told you, you are a member of the Security Council, and we need your support to become one of the oldest nation of the world. And you know, India is a world most largest democratic country in the world. As far as Pakistan is concerned, the Indian Muslims who are in India today, we don't need support or sympathy from Pakistan. You know, whatever, if there is any problem for the Indian Muslims, we have settled down, and we will settle down through dialogues. And whenever any country, other country supports our cause, which they can't help us over there, it will be much more problem for Indian Muslims. So it is better you have to understand these things. And we were not in favor of division of India at that time. But some people, I don't know what is their thinking, they have divided India. I think we would have much more better position if the united India would have been there. Anyway, what is being done? And now, what is their claim, what they want after so many dialogues and treaties and all that? And still they agree to the on table, but in practical they just take a U-turn, as my leader said you. We are here to need your to explain our issues, our things to you, and we need your support. Thank you very much.
I come from a state where many of the people of Guyana region come from. I come from eastern Uttar Pradesh. So this visit, which was supposed to be a diplomatic and an explanation mission, has turned out to be an emotional mission for me. And the fact that we're sitting in a house where the chair of the house has been gifted by the Indian people in itself shows that continued collaboration between our two nations. I first say that the purpose of what has been explained very beautifully by our chair, Tejasvi, Sarfraz, Kalatia ji, I just want to add one aspect to this. Some of this could have been conveyed by convenient PowerPoints. But I think you need to appreciate and hopefully pass on the emotion behind what we are here for. I think the emotion is that all of us parliamentarians who come from different parties, and it's very appropriate that I'm in the ruling party, have placed me in the opposition, but that signifies actually the purpose of this mission, that we are all united across party lines to convey an emotive message that when 26 innocent civilians, of which one is a Nepali, gets killed, then the whole nation takes up arms. It's not just the soldiers on the front line who've done that. So I'll leave it at that, because many of the other technical points on why Operation Sindoor was made is important, but it's not something which is just a technical issue. It is something that every citizen of which some we represent comes to. The second is my personal view that there is a huge potential, given the fact that many people of Indian origin have come here in the days gone by. I sometimes wonder at the condition of those people, the Jahajis who came here, what brought them here, their personal stories, the emotional stories, and I think we should do more to bring it out, because sometimes catharsis happens when you bring out the history of these two nations together, and I think it will bring us together far more. That doesn't ignore the fact that much like India, you're also a melange. You have Africans, you have Europeans, you have Creoles, you have others. So given that diversity of India and the diversity of Guyana, we should perhaps do more, and I now point to Amitji, to do more on the cultural front. How do we bring that out? And my final point is that we are on a great journey authored by a Prime Minister called Viksit Bharat. This is going to happen over the next 22 years. This is a journey of going not just from a 4 trillion GDP to a 10 to 15 trillion GDP, but it's a new way of life that we are proposing to the world and to ourselves. This is a way of life which is sustainable. This is a way of life which is humanistic. It is not only this direction that we are going, but the quality of that growth, which is humanistic, that matters. And I would very much invite you to participate in that in whatever way fashion. And similarly, I think we should encourage our people as we grow in this 22-year-old journey to participate in your growth. And that I think is very important, because it's not just the way that we are growing, it's not just the quantity of what we're doing, but the quality. And many lighthouse projects of India. We talked about the digital lighthouse, we talked about health, we talked about education. Much of that is happening. I have particular expertise in space, I have particular expertise in non-kinetic warfare, for instance. So there are many areas of collaboration that we should explore together. Thank you once again for giving us the honor to be here. Thank you.
And sitting in this august house, I'm sure that regardless of which party and which side MPs are from, everyone must have a unanimous view that you're one of the most popular speakers to work with. So thank you so much for your kindness. Not to repeat the point that Dr. Tharoor, my young colleague Tejasvi have raised about Pakistan, but just to provide an additional perspective. You spoke about how, as a young man, when you were a student, you did a course on terrorism and assassins. And you rightly pointed out the difference between, let's say, guerrilla warfare and terrorism. I think the fundamental point that we are trying to make here is, unlike in other parts of the world, where terrorists and terrorism often are non-state actors, we are actually dealing with a state-sponsored terrorism. And if you permit me, there's a photograph I'd like to show you. And this photograph, I'll just show it to our friends in the media as well. Shortly after India responded and retaliated and hit 9 terror camps in Pakistan, this man here is a UN designated terrorist who is attending a funeral that is a state sponsored funeral with the Pakistani army and a wreath being laid on the coffins of terrorists by none other than the Pakistan army chief, who was later promoted. So we are dealing with a very different kind of terrorism, one that is state sponsored, one where an unstable neighbor is doing its best to provoke and destabilize a stable and growing neighbor. I think that's the fundamental difference, where we are grateful for your support in the days and months to come, especially in the United Nations Security Council. And at a personal level, since you asked about Bob Marley, I'm actually happen to be a musician as well, besides being a politician. And Bob Marley, I can tell you, is not just a hero for the Caribbean nations or for the African nations, but also for India. Yeah. And as when he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, another musician from the band U2 who inducted him, Bono, said that Bob Marley was the world's first world and third world superstar. And so we stand very much in cultural, political solidarity with Guyana and with the people of the Caribbean. Thank you.
I mean, the last 2 days, it's been such a wonderful experience when we have visited the Prime Minister and the President, and we saw yesterday the Independence Day. And we were so thrilled to be here. And I think just to add some additional insights into what has been already spoken by my colleagues. I think there's been a wrong narrative has been initiated by the Pakistan.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. Manzoor Bhai, really pleasure to be here. We have been very touched by the warm hospitality extended by the government and people of Guyana at such a busy time for you. Your 59th Independence Day is today. I must say that if you had come to India, you might not find it so convenient to receive a foreign delegation on Independence Day. So we are really touched and honored by the warmth of your welcome at this difficult and busy time. As you know, Mr. Speaker, we were proud to be associated with the celebrations of your freedom, and I was very struck when the President in his speech spoke about the importance of resisting certain kinds of assaults without fear and with determination. That's very much the spirit in which we too have come, because our country had to face an evil and tragic assault on innocent citizens enjoying a tourist holiday in our northern territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And this was not a one-off incident, but in many ways built upon a series, decades of this kind of thing being done, of which the most notorious was the assault in 2008, which was our 9/11, as we call it 26/11, 26 November 2008, when in Mumbai, in 5 locations, 170 people were mercilessly gunned down. And from then onwards, we have attempted to persuade the world that not only must we issue condolences and sympathies when people lose their lives, for which we're very grateful, but we must also take resolute action, not just against the perpetrators themselves. Very often these perpetrators, in the case of Mumbai, all but one, were gunned down in the course of their evil actions. So not only against the perpetrators, we must bring to justice always, but also against those who finance, sponsor, guide, arm, equip, train, and direct them to come and do this kind of awful act. And for us, therefore, we have come on this mission to seek your understanding, to address any questions or misgivings you may have, and to request that particularly now, in your own political opinion and with the important role that Guyana is playing in the United Nations Security Council, that we hope that we can count on your understanding and sympathy in solidarity with those who, as your President said, are determined to stand up without fear and with determination. Our nation has made it very clear in recent weeks that we have had enough, that they will no longer be permitted to cross a border, kill our innocent people, and walk back with impunity. That is not going to be happening anymore. As far as we are concerned, we are also not going to give in to their evil designs, which include trying to disturb the peace, tranquility, and economy of Jammu and Kashmir, where tourism was a very major mainstay, and that is at the moment the first target, the first victim, apart from the human lives lost. Second, there was clearly an attempt through religious profiling to create a backlash within the rest of India against one particular community. I'm proud to say India did not fall victim to that and stayed united and rose as one. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from the north to the south, the east to the west, we have stayed united and determined and resolute against the horrors of terrorism. Their third attempt, very clearly, was to somehow bring international attention to their so-called grievances, which are in fact the illegitimate desires of a neighboring country to claim territory that they don't control. And let me say that this is a problem that need not exist. Many, many attempts have been made over many decades to settle this issue, because we frankly want to get on. We want to get on with our development, Mr. Speaker. We have had a challenge. Till 10, 15 years ago, there were more than a couple of 100 million people living below the poverty line. We want to bring them into decent standards of life and hope. We want to grow our economy, which for some years now has been the fastest growing free market democracy in the world. We have also got a strong technological base, which really makes us focus on the 21st century and the future, rather than being buried in the unresolved grievances of the past. But having said that, we would not have wanted this issue to come and inflict itself upon us. But now that it has done so, we have responded vigorously. And I say to you, Mr. Speaker, our thinking very simply is this. If our neighbors will leave us alone to focus on our development, to focus on our future, we will be very happy to leave them alone. We have absolutely no designs. In fact, we are what is classically called a status quo power. We'll be happy to continue with the geopolitical status quo. Unfortunately, our neighbor doesn't share that assumption. Our neighbor is a revisionist power. They want something they don't have. And if they can't claim it through conventional war, they are willing to use what's called subconventional means, namely deploying terrorist militants infiltrating them across the border, and frankly making victims of people who are not expecting to fight or be caught up in a fight, who had literally just gone for a tourist vacation. This needed a response. Our government gave such a response, but it did so in a very calibrated, measured, precise manner. It wasn't interested in saying we're going to war with the whole country. We are simply going to assault specific sites that have been known and identified as belonging to, housing, basing organizations that are listed by the United Nations Sanctions Committee and organizations which are on the wanted terrorist lists of the US government as well. And we hit them hard, but we were very careful to do so at night when there were no civilians likely to be about to minimize collateral damage. Very careful to avoid any government sites, any military sites, any civilian locations. Nonetheless, Pakistan chose to respond initially with indiscriminate artillery shelling, which killed 19 civilians on our side of the border, including people in a Gurudwara, a Sikh temple, and in a Christian convent, a Carmel convent. And then, sadly, they added to this a battery of drones and missiles targeting everything from civilian airports to homes, to vehicles, to airfields, and so on. I'm proud to say that our air defenses proved more than equal to the task. Minimal damage was done. We also responded in kind to the artillery shelling, and we also responded with strikes across the border in response to their attacks on us. So the message again was clear. If you attack, we will respond. If you will hold your fire, we will hold our fire, because we are not seeing our actions as the first salvo in a protracted war. This message was finally understood after 88 hours of fighting, and the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations, called his Indian counterpart, asked for a cessation of firing, to which we agreed with alacrity because we didn't want to prolong the conflict anyway, and that's where we are. Having said that, the hunt for these killers, 4 of whom have been identified by name and photograph, continues. The armed forces are prepared to respond in case of any future misadventure from across the border. And the Prime Minister has declared that any act of terror, and I don't think he meant any small act of terror, but any serious act of terror, will be responded to as an act of war. So these are the messages that our government has given to its neighbor, and which we are conveying to the world at large. If you have questions or concerns, we're very happy to address them. But I do want to say, Mr. Speaker, that your welcome and your warmth of your reception has itself been deeply heartwarming and gratifying for all of us. We feel at home here in Guyana. We were privileged to be part of your Independence Day celebrations. And we hope that just as you are determined to keep your country free and safe, so are we. And we look forward to your understanding and support in that endeavor in these trying times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable MP. We fully understand the complex situation that exists, and Guyana is not immune to those challenges. This might not be diplomatic, but we have a madman to our west, Maduro, and who has no respect for democracy and would, like any dictator, do whatever he can take or do to stay in power. Being a little history of dictators, not that I want to employ them, but there was a dictator in Spain, Franco, and he said, if I have to kill half of Spain to stay in power, I will. And he sums up the philosophy of dictators about them staying in power. Guyana respects India for its democracy, its contributions to the global south, and more particularly for the connection India and Guyana maintains between our people. The Prime Minister described Guyana as a little India, and he knows Guyana not only from the lens of the office of the Prime Minister. He was here earlier like an ordinary tourist. And our country is fortunate that we have people from the African continent, Asia, Europe, and we have had a long and strong history of a united nation. We have some issues around election timings, but they quickly fade out after election. And we, like you, endure. We endure. So, while we have a small population, a small area of 215,000 square kilometers, 50,000 square miles of sea to patrol, and we have little or no. We have little in terms of physical defense. We maintain an army so that we can employ diplomacy if there is cross-border aggression.